Lesson 6.5 is titled Graph Square Root Functions. Please pause the video, write everything you see on the screen, then press play, and we'll fill in the blanks. Our learning intention for today, I can restrict the domain, which is different from what we had yesterday, in order to graph a square root function. Let's do the warm-up. Sketch the graph of y equals x squared and its inverse. Starting off with the original equation, y equals x squared. This is standard form of this is parent function actually, for a quadratic equation. We graphed this way back in lesson 4.1. Like that's a long time ago. When we picked values for x, we started with 0. 0 squared equals 0. And that was the vertex for our parent function. When we plugged in 1, 1 squared is 1. But when we plugged in -1, that was also 1. Go ahead and put a point on the left side and the right side, getting some symmetry there. Plug in 2, and 2 squared would be 4. Plug in -2, and remember we always get a positive when we square that, so positive 4. This isn't the same as absolute value, and here's why. If you go 2 to the right, up 4, see how there's a little bit of a curve to that on the right-hand side? And then -2 up 4, there's a curve as well. Go ahead and connect those 5 dots and put arrows at the top of your graph. Your sketch should look something like this. So this is our original equation. It's our parent function for the quadratic equation, y equals x squared. Now to get the inverse, let's first draw in our reflecting line. Remember it goes through 0, 0, 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, and so on, up to the left, and we'll do the same thing all the way down to the right, like so. There's our reflecting line, y equals x. It's kind of like we're going to take this parabola and turn it over on its side. And here's how it's going to work. Remember to take the inverse, we find the original ordered pairs, and we literally just switch the x and the y. The unique thing that happens is 0 stays to 0 and 1 actually stays to 1. But the rest of our ordered pairs are going to flip. When we plot these over on the right, we have overlap at 0, 0 and overlap at 1, 1. But then we have 1, -1, which drops down, whoops, kind of, there we go, drops down below, 4, 2, and 4, -2. If we connect these 5 dots now, our graph kind of curves over to the right. It's like our parabola just kind of flipped over on its side. Now, if we're asked to write the equation, like we did in 6.4, that is where we run into a little bit of trouble. I'm just going to slide this over here to the right. To write the equation, we're going to start off the same way we did in 6.4. Take your original equation and reverse the x and the y. So now I'm going to have x equals y squared. Now if we're trying to get y by itself, we're going to take the square root of each side, like we've done so far in chapter 6. Because our root is even, or our index is even, we have to remember in step 3 to put a plus or minus out in front. And when we look at this graph, it technically doesn't pass the vertical line test. There's a throwback to semester 1. What we need to do is then actually split the graph into 2 versions. Y equals the positive square root of x. That's going to be that top half of our curve where all of our outputs are positive. Or y equals negative square root x. And that's everything on the bottom half of our curve. Taking a look at our inverse in a little more detail, notice that the graph doesn't have x values that go to the left and right forever. Unlike what we used to graph back in chapter 5, where we said that the domain was -infinity to positive infinity, we're now going to have a domain restriction. Let's talk about that in a little bit more detail down where it says radical functions. The template for a radical function is going to start with the parent function, f of x equals. We're not going to put plus or minus out in front. We're just going to go with square root x. We know that it'll be the top half of that blue curve that we had before if the number out in front is positive, but it would be the bottom half if the number out in front is negative. Thinking about all the kinds of numbers that we can plug in for x, we know that we can't plug in a number that has an imaginary solution. Therefore, we have a restriction, like I said, in our domain. The smallest number that we can plug in for x is 0. And then we can plug in anything bigger than that, all the way up to positive infinity. As we write out domain using infinity notation, we know that we can plug in 0 and get a value, and we can go up to infinity and plug in really anything else we want. The graph shape will happen depending on other factors that we see in our equation. Let's try a few examples. You might want to grab a calculator, go ahead and write question 1, y equals square root x, and then sketch a graph over on the right. The first thing you want to do is describe your domain restriction. And if it's the parent function, we said x is going to be kind of have a start value at 0 and go up to positive infinity. And that will help us make our table. Over on the left, I'm going to plug in values for x and determine what my output will be. We said that 0 is the smallest value it could be. That should always be your start number, whatever your smallest value is in the domain. The square root of 0 is 0. So we plot 0, 0. Pretty simple. If I go bigger than 0, because I can go towards positive infinity, plug in 1. The square root of 1 is 1. So these are points that we had on our graph from the inverse up above. But if I plug in 2, watch what happens. Square root 2 isn't a perfect square. It's a decimal approximation. It's about 1.4. That's where your calculator might come in handy. If I go 2 to the right, I'm going to go up a little bit over 1. Now, if I'm thinking about numbers that would be really simple to graph, I'm going to pick numbers that I know are perfect squares. So I'm going to go to 4 next, because the square root of 4 is 2. So if I count over to 4, go up to 2, and I could keep going. If I went all the way out to 9, which I don't have enough graph paper for, the square root of 9 would be 3. So if I kind of went way over here, 9 would be kind of like way up there somewhere, really far away. So I'm going to kind of draw this curve through these points. Notice this looks like the top half of that curve that we did with the inverse. These are the points that you're going to want to graph anytime you're asked to sketch the parent function. Let's try another example. Y equals -2 times the square root of x. What I want you to do first is sketch the parent function using the ordered pairs from before. So we're just going to sketch that in really quick on the right. 0, 0, 1, 1, 2, about 1.4, 4, 2. I think that's probably good enough. And I'm just going to sketch that curve over on the right. Now let's take a look at what happens with my parent function. The new equation. Oh, sorry, I'm off my game right now. The new equation, when we have y equals -2 times the square root of x, to check what happens with our domain, look where x is located. It's still on the inside of the square root. Nothing else is changing the input value. The -2 on the outside is going to change the output value. That tells us that x is going to have the same domain restriction that we had with our parent function. And that also tells us how we start our graph. I'm going to plug in 0, and then I have to do -2 times the square root of 0. Well, the square root of 0 is just 0, and -2 times 0 is still 0. So we're going to have a matching point on the right. But watch what happens when I plug in 1. Things are going to change pretty quickly for us. -2 times the square root of 1. Well, the square root of 1 is just 1, and -2 times 1 is -2. Definitely different from what we had with the parent function. Plug in 2, -2 times the square root of 2 this time. That's -2 times 1.4. Put that in parentheses maybe. And that would give us -2.8. So not only are our answers negative, but they're getting bigger. And if I go to 4 and plug that in for x, negative 2 times the square root of 4, well, the square root of 4 is 2. Negative 2 times 2 would put us all the way down at negative 4. Look at these 4 ordered pairs. 0, 0 is a matching one. But then I'm going to go 1 to the right and down negative 2. 2 to the right and down 2.8. So starting to get a little bit of a curve to happen. And then 4 to the right down to negative 4. So you can see that that's not a linear equation. Like we're going to draw a curve through those points. It's going to kind of curve down and start to slowly level. Oops, it kind of went off there. Slowly level its way out. Taking a look at how this shape looks different from our parent function, we have 2 things that are happening. Instead of the top half of the curve, like it matches the parent function, we have the bottom half of the curve. And that's based off the inverse function up above. The other thing that this does is it stretches the graph vertically. All those values for y got bigger faster. These types of describing words are going to be similar to what we did back with absolute value in Chapter 4. Here's our next example. Y equals square root of x minus 3. Notice the x minus 3 is all underneath the radical, and that's going to have an impact on our graph. But first, let's go back and sketch our parent function using the ordered pairs from up above. Start with 0, 0, 1, 1, 2, 1.4, and then 4, 2. Get that curve to go all the way to the edge of your graph. And then we'll start with our new equation, our new transformation. What's unique about this equation is when you have something with x on the inside, that's going to impact our domain. What we need to do is focus on the entire radicand, the x minus 3. For our domain, we know that our values had to be greater than or equal to 0, or go towards positive infinity. So here's what we need to do to figure out the change. If x minus 3 now has to give us an answer that's greater than or equal to 0, move 3 over, and now we can only plug in values for x that are greater than or equal to 3. So here's how we sketch our domain, or write out our domain. 3 is now our start point instead of 0. That's really the only change. And now we can still go towards positive infinity. That means we can't pick 1 or 2 this time. So let's see what happens. Draw your table. If I start with the number that's in my domain, 3, the square root of 3 minus 3 would equal the square root of 0. And that's just 0. Over on the graph, I'm going to count 3 to the right and put my dot. If I pick 4, square root of 4 minus 3 is the square root of 1, and that equals 1. So now if I go 4 to the right, I'm only up 1. If I go 5, 5 minus 3, that's the square root of 2. And we know that's about 1.4. So if I go 5 to the right, I'm up at about 1.4. And instead of going to 6, I'm going to count to 7. And then watch what happens when I plug that in. I know that's off the graph a little bit, but we'll stop there. 7 minus 3 is 4. And the square root of 4 is 2. So if I count over just a little bit, go up to 2, I'm going to approximate where that ordered pair would be. And then sketch our curve. So you'll notice the shape of the curve doesn't really change much from the parent function. But the start point, I should probably sketch that in a little bit better. Get that a little bit closer to those ordered pairs. There we go. The start point moved 3 to the right. So if we describe this transformation, the shape didn't change, but the graph moves right 3 units. I hope this idea sounds familiar. I think that's going to be a good stopping point for us for day 1. The questions on your CYU today will have similar equations to the examples that we did in our notes. Please state the domain, make a table, sketch your parent function and then the new graph, and then describe. So your work should look very similar to the ones that we did in the video.